Okay, welcome back to the wood shop, the bee lab, the whatever you want to call it. It's my all-purpose. It's an office. It's a wood shop. It's whatever I need it to be at the time. So I make the most use of it. A little disorganized in places, but that's the way life is, right? So today we're going to talk about how to prepare for the cutout. Let's say you get a call and somebody's got bees in their house. They want you to do a cutout. Or a buddy of mine, Mike, and I just did a cutout recently in a church in Gas City, Indiana. They had bees in the bell tower, so they wanted us to come out and get the bees out of there for them. And just yesterday, we did another cutout in Warren, Indiana. Nice, beautiful hive. We've got a lot of bees out of there. I'll show some videos about that in a bit. But and we did another one in Indianapolis the week before. So we've been doing a lot of cutouts this year, 2021, doing a lot of things. So I want to talk about how to prepare for the cutout. Cutouts are labor intensive. Lots of times you need more than one set of hands. Maybe you can't do it by yourself. Maybe you have to have a buddy or two with you. So what I typically do, if somebody calls me and says, "Hey, will you come cut these bees out? You know, what do you do? What do you charge, et cetera, et cetera." That's a whole different conversation. But first I say, number one, are you sure you have bees? Are they really bees, or are they, wasps? Are they hornets? Are you sure they're bees? So I asked them to shoot me a video, especially if I have to drive a fair piece to get there. So I'll see a video of it to make sure they really are honeybees, so I can see them going in and out. I also want to see a picture of where they're located in relationship to the house. Is it on the ground floor, or is it up high? Do I need, what kind of construction materials am I going to need in order to do that cutout? Every cutout is different. They all have similar in nature. The bees are bees, right? So that's one given. But in terms of construction, deconstruction, to remove the bees, you may need different things in different places. So I'm going to show you what I generally pack in my cutout bag so that I'm prepared for most things. If they can give me a video or some pictures that are a little better, then I will certainly pack appropriately based on the given situation. But by and large, these are some tips I'm going to give you, some tools that I would recommend you have. You may have other tools that you would recommend. You may have other processes and procedures you'd like to use, but I'm going to show you what I typically bring with me on a cutout. At minimum, could be more, but at minimum, I will have the following items in my cutout bag. So this is my cutout bag, and we'll go through some of the things that I have. Smoker, obviously. I don't always use it, but I usually have it handy in case I do, in case the bees get feisty. You never know what kind of cutout you're going to do. We did a cutout in Warsaw, Indiana last year. Those bees were mean, and I definitely used the smoker. The cutouts we did in Indianapolis, the cutout we did in Warren, we had the smoker. It was there. We didn't need it. Those bees were gentle. Those bees were very calm. I got a bucket of fuel. So what I use typically are pine needles, and I've got some wood pellets. And I know a lot of people don't like wood pellets. I think they're kind of handy. So I got a bucket of fuel that I carry with me. Along with a bucket of fuel, I've got a lighter. And just to make sure things are good, I have a backup lighter, because you don't want to get out in the field and not be able to light your smoker if you need it. So I usually carry 2 lighters with me. Duct tape. Number one, bees hate duct tape, but it comes in handy, especially for construction, things like that. You want to carry a roll of duct tape with you wherever you go. It's just good. If a hammer and nail can't fix it, duct tape can, as they say. So take some duct tape with you. I also carry painter's tape. Painter's tape is necessary for my bee vac that we'll show here in a few minutes. So the painter's tape is very important. I would certainly recommend having painter's tape along with duct tape in your bag. Hive tools, always good to carry. Bee brush. I rarely use the bee brush. Some people will tell you that bee brushes are bad for the bees. Some people love bee brushes. Sometimes it just makes me feel a little more comfortable. So I may use a bee brush on occasion, but rarely. Some other folks that come with me to help out may want to use the bee brush as opposed to using their hand and wiping them off or doing a gentle shake. They may want the bee brush. So I have a bee brush just in case. Gloves. Now, people will talk about gloves all day long. I don't care what kind of gloves you want. I use disposable gloves. The reason why is as you're cutting the comb out, you get sticky. Things get sticky very quickly, and it's just nice to have a pair of gloves you can just pitch away, throw away, dispose of, and not have to worry about getting all that stuff all over your fingers and getting just messy. I mean, it gets messy. When you're cutting out comb, and they got honey dripping everywhere, things get messy. So I carry disposable gloves. This was the lessons learned from a recent cutout. I now carry one of these in all my cutouts. This is visqueen, and you can roll it out. I don't know, it's like a 12 feet by 12. I don't know what it is, 12 by 20. Lay it out, especially if you're inside a house. Lay it out on the floor so you're not getting comb, wax, all that good stuff into the floor. It's also good to have for swarm traps. Before you're catching a swarm, a wild swarm, before you shake the leaves or whatever, you can have this visqueen laid out. All the bees will hit the visqueen. They're there, you can see them readily. It's cheap, it's dirt cheap. Make sure you have some visqueen. You may want to have a couple different rolls in your bag, just depending on the situation, right? Rubber bands. I will show you what the rubber bands are used for here very shortly, but I have a bag of rubber bands. Drill, just in case we have to remove something from the house. Sawzall and blades to go in there. These are all cordless, they're Ryobi, and it's not that I'm promoting Ryobi at all, it's just what I had. When our former house was real close to Home Depot, so I could go to Home Depot. Home Depot carries Ryobi. That's why I use Ryobi. If you want to use something else, DeWalt, whatever the case may be, Craftsman, Harbor Freight, it doesn't matter. All we're trying to do is get the cutout made so that we can get to the bees. So whatever you need to use. If you need to use an old Milwaukee Sawzall you plug in, use it. Whatever it takes, but sometimes you're going to need a Sawzall. I'd make sure you have one of those for most cutouts. For drywall, things of that nature, I carry 2 drywall punches. Punch up, you can saw that way if it's just going through in a ceiling or inside of an interior wall. So these punches are nice. If you're in drywall, heavy duty hammer, very important to carry. Pry bar, times, even with the Sawzall, whatever, you're still going to have to pry wood out, and you definitely want to have at least one pry bar handy with you in your bee bag. I carry a variety of bits for the drill and a couple bucket of nails. Bucket nails can help. I typically don't do the repairs. I let the landowner know ahead of time, listen, I will cut the bees out, but it's up to you to do the repairs. One of the reasons why I don't do the repairs, first of all, I'm not a master craftsman, and I would not want to have somebody pay for my work to do a repair job. Ask my wife if you don't believe me, that let somebody else do the repair work. But at times you want to re-nail something, put something back up. The other thing is, it's good to let the area air out for a couple days. You're going to have bees coming, foragers coming back to the place after you remove all the comb. The smell of honey, the smell of wax is in the air. You may attract robber bees. Robber bees may come in, especially if it's on an exterior wall, they may come in and clean it all out over a couple days. So it's better not to do the repair job immediately anyway. You want to let that thing air out a little bit, let all the robber bees come in and clean out everything that remains, and then you have less likelihood that the bees will return to that same area. No guarantees, they still may. The scent is still there, right? So one of these days you may have a swarm moving out and running around, and they smell something in the air and say, hey, this would be a nice place to call home. So once you get the bees out, once you get all the comb out as much as you possibly can, let the bees eat whatever honey still remains on the walls, things like that. And a few days later, maybe a week later, you want to come back and do the repair job. So that's one of the reasons why I don't do the repair work typically. I just do the cutout. A lot of people don't want to do the cutouts. We will do them. Me and the bee brothers, as we call them, me, Mike, and my buddy Mike and my buddy Craig, we'll go out and we will remove the bees for cutouts or swarms. This is a FLIR, F-L-I-R. If you're going to get into doing a lot of cutouts, you will probably want to invest with one of these. The FLIR, all it is an adapter that plugs into the bottom of your phone, and it takes thermal images. So what you can do is show it up on the wall, and it will sense the heat that bees make. Bees make a lot of heat. So if I'm scanning over the wall with my phone, scanning over the wall, I can see the images where it's very hot, and that's more than likely where the bees are centrally located. So it's a handy apparatus if you want to spend the money. This is one of the cheaper ones you can get. I found that it's been very beneficial for our cutouts. I would highly recommend it. It's not necessary, but especially if you can see the bees coming and going. But it gives you a good idea of how far that hive may extend to the right, how far it may go to the left, up, down, whatever the case may be. It's also good in the wintertime to go out and check your hives. Are your hives alive? If so, you should sense some heat coming out of those hives on the camera. You don't have to open up the hive. You don't have to rap on the side. You don't have to put your ear up to the side of the hive. You don't have to use a stethoscope. If you got this, it has all kinds of useful functions for beekeepers. Not necessary, but useful. So I carry that with me. Make sure it's charged before you go out and cut out, and it's good. Flashlights, you always want flashlights. I usually carry a couple with me. I've got my marking pen, so if I find a queen during cutout, I can grab that queen and mark her. I put a white paint dot on her thorax or back, whatever it is, whatever you call it, and I put it there so it's easier to spot the queen when you're doing hive inspections. Not required. There's a universal code for colors for each year for the queen. So in 2021, it is white. So if you see a white dot on a queen, you know that she's a 2021 queen. The acronym for color coding for bees, if you're interested, is Will You Raise Good Bees? Will is white, you yellow, raise red, good green, bees blue. So it goes white, yellow, red, green, blue for a 5-year period, and then it recycles itself. So 2021 is white, then 2026 will be white again. And that's just the color code you use for queens. You don't have to mark your queens. A lot of people never mark their queens, but I carry one just in case I want to. I also carry this in my bee bag normally when I'm out in the hive, doing the hive inspections, not necessarily to mark bees, but I write on top of the hive. So if I want to take notes or something like that, I just mark it in pen. Less chance it's going to go away. You can write on the wood body, you can write on the steel top if you have a telescopic cover, you can write on top of the cover, whatever you want to do, but it's handy to have a paint marker with you when you go on these things. A little scraper, that's just to scrape off whatever remaining cone, and this one's still sticky. You need to wash it because it's sticky from the last cutout we did. But anyway, you can scrape the comb off, get really close to the wall, close to the edge and stuff like that. So that's always handy to have with you. Razor blade, you never know if you're going to be cutting, have to cut something out. I use this a lot for cutting the actual comb and replacing it in the frame. So having a razor blade, sharp one, handy to have. Queen excluders. If you don't have a couple of these, you need to have these handy. Queen cages, or I'm sorry, it's a queen cage, not an excluder, but operates the same way. You can put the queen in there. If you find her during a cutout, put her in this thing, set it down next to the bees. The bees will all know that the queen's there, be happy, be more content, and maybe, just like yesterday, we found, 40 queen cells in our cutout. And while we were doing the cutout, at least 3 of those queen cells, the queens emerged out of those cells. So we immediately caught 2 of them. I marked them. I did do the paint marker there. The other one went into a nuke box that I had handy. So anyway, you want to make sure you have something to isolate the queen with. I'd recommend as many as you can afford. These aren't that expensive. So I will certainly, going forward, have at least 4 or 5 with me if we ever have a cutout like we had yesterday again. I don't want to be caught with my pants down, so I want to make sure we have it ready to go. So have multiple queen cages. You can use the queen cage that comes in the package, whatever you want to do. But if you can find that queen, that's awesome. And that's a great day. If you find a queen during a cutout, it's a wonderful time. And to watch the queens actually emerge from those queen cells, that was also pretty exciting. We'll show you a video, or you can go to one of the other videos and see it. So the rest of the stuff, ratchet strap. I need 1 ratchet strap for sure. I usually carry it outside the bag, but I bring in additional ratchet straps just in case. And then I've got blades of the Sawzall just laying down here. I've got another hammer, another hive tool. I have a screwdriver just in case I have to get in something tight and with a big pry bar won't fit. I do have a solid, old Craftsman screwdriver, flat, regular. And here's an optional piece of equipment. I don't care what name brand you want. Bee Gone, Bee Quick, Bee whatever. Get the bees out of there. For some reason, they don't like the scent of this stuff. Now, I kind of like it, but if you get to a spot during a cutout where you cannot reach the bees, one thing we did in Indianapolis, I started spraying this stuff down in those little particular areas where we could not reach, and all those bees came flocking out. I mean, they did not like the smell at all, so I would recommend this. Just having it handy, fairly expensive. You don't need a lot, just a little dab will do you. The smell, really, the bees do not like it, and they started pouring out of that area that we could not reach. And I didn't want to really destroy the landowner's home, right? So I could have got to him if I would have torn out a whole lot more. But with this stuff, I didn't have to. It saved a lot of time, saved a lot of effort on my end, and saved the landowner, the homeowner, a lot of repair work. So if you have some Be Quick, Be Gone, whatever you want to call it, you might want to carry that in your bag and go forward from there. I've got a whole other box of rubber bands just in case I need it. Got some extra gloves, the disposable gloves again. I've got multiple frames that I'll take with me, and I'll show you here in a second how we do what I use these for and what we use the rubber bands for. Then right here, a beekeeper's best friend, 5-gallon buckets. You want to have tons of 5-gallon buckets with you. And when you go to the 5-gallon buckets, you also may have to put bees in there. At times, you know, if you're using a bee vac and you run out of room, or you got extra, you've got too many bees flying around, you can't fit them all into what you thought you would be able to, you need extra room. 5-gallon buckets can be done for that. And if you take a lid, so I had a lid here handy with I'm back now. I wanted to show you what it did. I made several of these lids. These lids just have wire mesh on the back, taped up to the top, and we used these for the cutout yesterday. This is not sufficient ventilation. It's not enough ventilation for the bees for a long period of time. But if you're taking them back for a short period of time, you know, short distance, you know, you can put them in here for a while. Not too long. If the bees get hot, they're going to die. So if you got bees in a 5-gallon bucket, you can put this on top of the lid. There is some ventilation there. Again, not sufficient for long trips, but enough for short distances. Be advised, beekeepers, not all 5-gallon buckets are made equal, and not all 5-gallon bucket lids fit on other lids. So make sure before you go out, make sure you know what lid this can actually fit on, so you know which one to put the bees in. So I've got 4 or 5 of these, different sizes and things like that. But beekeepers, you want 5-gallon buckets. They're handy. If I'm doing cutouts, we will have multiple buckets set up. One bucket will be for general comb that we don't want to wire up into frames. One bucket will be for honey, and I kind of mix and match where I put it. You know, we can melt it down later on. If you got a wax melter, fancy thing like that can separate the honey from the wax, great. If not, you know, you may want to put it out for a open feeder for the rest of the honey. There's all kinds of things, but you need the buckets to put this stuff in. So don't go to a cutout without sufficient amount of buckets. Don't go to a cutout without sufficient ways to carry bees back home if they've got tons of bees like we found yesterday. And yesterday, with all those bees that we had, with all those queens that were emerging, you can basically create nukes on the fly, right? You put enough bees in there, put your queen cage in there with a bucket, put the lid on, take it home, immediately put it into a nuke. You've got the queen. Have sensed that queen for a while. They've got her smell on them. They'll be happier. They'll be more content. So you definitely want to have 5-gallon buckets. Can't stress that one enough. You gotta have them. Okay. Lots of frames. Now I typically use mediums, and so that's why I take medium frames out there. Yes, you could use deeps, not a problem. Yes, you could use whatever size frame you want to use. Since I try to base most of my operation around mediums, not around deeps, I have medium frames and I use rubber bands. And what we do, you take 2 rubber bands. Bill Wren from Indiana Honeybee Rescue taught me this. You take 2 rubber bands like this. You just take one underneath and you've got an X, okay? So like this. What I'll do is go on one side, come down to the other, okay? So that's that. I will take 2 more and do the same process. Just go under and back through again. And you got this again, right? On the same side, other corners, I put it back on, just like that. Then I'll take, before I go out there to make sure I'm prepared and prepped, I'll take one like this and go vertical. I'll take another one like this and go vertical with it. And so what we have is the cross section. If you can see this, the cross section is on the back side. So if I've got a helper, if Mike's helping me, Craig's helping me, whatever, they can hand me down a piece of comb. And so I'll just grab this. Now let me try to find a piece of comb. You generally want to run it the same way, you know, vertically, the way it was found in the hive. Bees will like that much better. What this does, that cross section here gives me a wall to rest that comb on. So you can see right here, I'm laying it flat. I can rest that comb right there on that cross section. This is all my junk stuff. So this is not the comb that we've used, but this is the honey stuff, sticky stuff, whatever. But you can see how I can just rest it there, right? So that's what the purpose of that rubber bands are for. Then the vertical ones that I just put on, I can bring out to the middle, do this, and keep it in place. So if the bees have their own comb to use in the initial cutout frame, they'll like it better. So now we're solid right here, and that's how we just set up our medium frames. For any of those that are concerned, I think these are number 8 rubber bands. I really don't remember what size they are. A lot of people will only use certain size rubber bands. I would say use whatever size rubber bands fits you the best and works the best. If you wanted to, again, you could put it on here and go across, especially if the comb was real loose. So what we did on the back side, you could put on the front side and keep that comb together as you set it into your boxes to begin installing bees. Especially if you have queen cells, you know, it's awesome. You want to mark it, you can write on top of the frames, write down queen cell, the date of the cutout, whatever you want to do. And the frames don't have to be anything fancy. It can be your oldest frames that you have in your equipment. You don't have to go out and buy new frames. This one happened to be a new one. I had actually wax foundation in here, and I had to pull it out for the cutout. I pulled out a bunch of them. So when you go to a cutout, take 4 or 5 boxes with you, have empty frames, have the rubber bands already to go, and depending on how prolific that hive is, that will help determine how many of these you'll actually use. You might not use them all, but it's better to have more than you need than less than you should have. So make sure you're prepared. I always take more stuff with me than I ever need, just to be safe. Yesterday was an exception because we were not expecting so many queen cells, so I wish we had more gear yesterday. But this will work. And really easy, really handy. So when I'm getting ready to do a cutout, this is my basic package. This will be with me. This and the bee vac, which I'll show you in the next video. Again, if you're trying to become a beekeeper and you've been a bee haver, we'll walk you through everything that you need to know. So don't be a bee haver, be a beekeeper. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. Thank you again for watching Clark Family Outdoors, and we'll be with you next time.